Video game development is an intense line of work. I should know. I worked in it. And as such, video game content gets cut all the time. And I'm not talking cut as in some mild prison yard shankings. I'm talking dropping to your knees in anguish and begging the lead designer to let you go home and see your family because it's been 2 weeks, sir. We just can't turn around your request before our deadline. Nonsense! Inevitably, after the second or third employee death, studios tend to cave and make concessions that totally alter their original ideas, often affecting the ending. Disclaimer. During his time in game development, Ben did not see mild prison yard shankings, tyrannical game designers, or 2 to 3 employee deaths. I'm Ben from What Culture, and here are 8 alternate endings in famous games you won't believe got cut. Number 8. The Reapers are the good guys. Mass Effect 3. People bloody loved the ending of sci-fi alien bangfest video game Mass Effect 3, didn't they? In fact, they were so angry they completely ignored the Paragon prompt to write to their local MP and have it debated in the Commons, and went straight for the marginally more renegade option of death threats. While it's never acceptable to threaten another human with being killed, the decision to have a trilogy of games consisting of hundreds of different choices and end with just 3, and with none of your previous choices affecting the outcome in any way, was always going to rile people up. I suppose you could call it a shit ending for wankers, #shit ending for wankers. However, it was nearly different. According to a writer involved in the early planning stages, the Reapers were nearly the good guys. Essentially, as immortal beings, the Reapers are absolutely invested in the universe not ending. And there was some talk of there being a cycle whereby organic beings evolve to the point where they can use biotic powers freely, emitting a dark energy that speeds up the end of the universe in the process. It was suggested that the cycle in which Mass Effect 3 took place could well be the one where the Reapers were attempting to merely remove Organic's biotic powers rather than outright eradicate all of them. What good guys. Number 7. Master Chief and Arbiter team up to finish the fight. Halo 2. Another fun ending for you now, courtesy of Halo 2, the game that exists in a universe where the Green Power Ranger was the real leader of the gang. So Chief and the Arbiter are working together to track down the Ark, and when asked how it's going, Chief responds with, "Sir, finishing this fight." Cue a cut to black and some very pleased fans. However, courtesy of ex-composer Marty O'Donnell, we learned that Chief and Arbiter were actually originally meant to continue their bromance into the final scenes, where they'd find the Ark buried in Earth City, have it open up, and then, and I'm quoting now, have a grand and glorious conclusion, finishing the fight right there on Earth. Just marginally better than a cut to black then. Eh, Sopranos? Number 6. Sonic the Hedgehog's secret credits. Now you may have noticed that there are 8 items in this video as opposed to the usual lovely round number of 10. That's because sometimes these lists are difficult to fill all the way up, and even then there may be some wonkier, imperfect filler entries. So, with that in mind, would the editor please sound the wonky list entry siren? There we are. There are various battered around rumors as to why credits weren't included, obviously within Sonic 1's ending sequence, with the most pertinent being that Sega had decided against its inclusion so players would only associate the company name with the product. However, sick of this attitude towards crediting his team, lead creative designer Yuji Naka instructed them to whack their names in anyway, but with a twist. To keep it hidden from the top brass at Sega, both the text and the background were black, making it invisible to the untrained eye. If you were to enter a cheat code though, well, the background would turn white, revealing the hardworking team who helped spawn a video game icon. Number 5. Arsenal Gear destroys New York. Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. Some people love Raiden, some people hate Raiden, and given the uproar following Kojima's bait and switch where he promised us Snake and gave us, well, this, you'd be forgiven for thinking that was the bit that was altered. But that's at the start, silly, not the end. Of course, the ending took place in New York with Raiden battling Solidus, and you may have noticed a rather glaring continuity error, as although they begin atop the humongous Arsenal Gear, they suddenly warp directly to the roof of Federal Hall with no connecting scenes. It transpires that following the 9/11 terrorist attacks, the original game's ending of having Arsenal Gear level a large portion of New York would be in incredibly poor taste. But with the game's release just 2 months later, there wasn't enough time to generate new assets to cover for their altered ending. Plus, in a weird twist, it turns out that the original spelling of Raiden was altered in-game from katakana to kanji, as due to the translation, the former actually came out close to Bin Laden in Japanese. Number 4. Aerith doesn't die. Final Fantasy VII. Aerith's death is like taking a Barrett-sized fist to the gut. Even nearly 20 years later, it still hurts. But what if she didn't have to die? Yeah, there are cheats out there that bring her back as a party member, but what use is a mute version of a character whose dialogue was the reason you cared about her? While we're yet to get any concrete information on whether or not she was meant to be cut out or cut down or oh god, it still hurts, there's still plenty of evidence to suggest she should still be with Cloud and the gang to the bitter end. Firstly, she's pictured in the game manual staring up at the Highwind airship, a scene which couldn't take place until after the Temple of the Ancients, where she conks it. Then there's a defined spot in the stonework where your party stands during the final battle against Sephiroth, a spot that she could slot into perfectly. Finally, and perhaps most damning, is that data miners have found a load of unused dialogue that she would presumably have used. Sadly, we still don't have real answers, but as we march towards the full remake, we can only hope that more is revealed. Number 3. Conker commits suicide. Conker's bad fur day. Can I just start by saying, Jesus Christ, that's a dark ending. Beginning life as a potential mascot to dethrone the likes of Mario, Sonic, and Crash Bandicoot, Conker was reimagined as a foul-mouthed hero by proxy following damning feedback, and earning cult status in the process. Not content with the level of adult content in their game already, Rare nearly took it one step further by having Conker kill himself at the end of the game. Thankfully they didn't do that, and while it's arguable that he couldn't possibly live happily ever after by virtue of his own grumpiness, at least the life expectancy of a squirrel would have had him die naturally before he was ever subjected to whatever hellish creation Microsoft are putting together for HoloLens. I mean, fuck me. Number 2. Reviving the Traveler for one final battle. Destiny. My goodness me, Destiny had a bad narrative, eh? And don't you dare say it's in the Grimoire cards. The Grimoire cards can right off into space. Literally. It's admittedly been expanded upon in DLC, but at launch it was fairly bare. Just strange, empty nouns that never revealed themselves to be anything more than a rushed cover for the fact that the planned story was gutted about a year prior. An expired non-disclosure agreement has now allowed a beta tester to discuss what he'd seen during development, and so instead of the pointless stranger character who pops up a couple of times in cutscenes, there'd be an integral figure named The Crow, who would help the player uncover a conspiracy involving head honcho, the Speaker. It all culminated with an all-powerful AI, not another one, attempting to revive the globe-like Traveler, who in this version of the story would then pose a huge threat to Earth, requiring you to step in and take it down. Still confusing as hell, if you ask me. Number 1. Big Boss's Downfall. Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. While this was covered in much more depth in our wonderful How Kojima Should Have Made MGS5 video, the ending of The Phantom Pain was rather disappointing. For me personally, I didn't even like the twist, which we shan't mention for spoiler reasons, let alone the fact that there was nothing to really connect the title to the next chronological series entry. It just ends with that twist and a whole load of unanswered questions. The special edition bonus disc did come with unfinished material for a final chapter that showed us a few more linking factors, but some clever data mining revealed even more unused assets. You have to believe that in spite of there not being a proper ending, the cut episode 51 notwithstanding, Kojima wanted to go further, do more. He might be completely mad, but he would have definitely known about the missing links he'd failed to address. And with some fans even suggesting original voice of Snake David Hayter should have returned at the end, I'd be amazed if that hadn't crossed his mind too. His absurd, terrifying mind. And that's our list. Are there any we could have added in to get it up to 10? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can even follow me here on Twitter if you fancy. I'm Ben from What Culture, and thanks for watching.